All right, we are in Numbers chapter 19 and 20. We're going to see a little bit more instruction and what to do, and then we're going to see a little bit more grumbling, which we're getting probably used to. So let's just jump into 19. The Lord said to, the Lord gave Moses and Aaron the following law. The people of Israel must bring Moses a reddish brown cow that has nothing wrong with it and that has never been used for plowing. Moses will give it to Eleazar the priest, and then it will be led outside the camp and killed while Eleazar watches. He will dip his finger into the blood and sprinkle it 7 times in the direction of the sacred tent. Then the whole cow, including its skin, meat, blood, and insides, must be burned. A priest is to throw a stick of cedar wood, a hyssop branch, and a piece of red yarn into the fire. After the ceremony, the priest is to take a bath and wash his clothes. Only then can he go back into the camp, but he remains unclean and unfit for worship until evening. The man who burned the cow must also wash his clothes and take a bath, but he is also unclean until evening. A man who isn't unclean must collect the ashes of the burnt cow and store them inside the camp in a clean place. The people of Israel can mix these ashes with the water used in the ceremony to wash away sin. The man who collects the ashes must wash his clothes, but will remain unclean until evening. This law must always be obeyed by the people of Israel and the foreigners living among them. If you touch a dead body, you will be unclean for 7 days. But if you wash with the water mixed with the cow's ashes on the 3rd day, and again on the 7th day, you will be clean and acceptable for worship. You must wash yourself on those days. If you don't, you will remain unclean. Suppose you touch a dead body but refuse to be made clean by washing with the water mixed with ashes. You will be guilty of making my sacred tent unclean and will no longer belong to the people of Israel. If someone dies in a tent while you are there, you will be unclean for 7 days, and anyone who later enters the tent will also be unclean. Any open jar in the tent is unclean. If you touch the body of someone who was killed or who died of an old age, or if you touch a human bone or a grave, you will be unclean for 7 days. Before you can be made clean, someone who is clean must take some of the ashes from the burnt cow, stir them into a pot of spring water, and that same person must dip a hyssop branch in the water and ashes, and then sprinkle it on the tent and everything in it, including everyone who was inside. If you have touched a human bone, a grave, or a dead body, you must be sprinkled with that water. If this is done on the 3rd day and on the 7th day, you'll be clean. Then after you take a bath and wash your clothes, you can worship that evening. If you are unclean and refuse to be made clean by washing with the water mixed with the ashes, you will be guilty of making my sacred tent unclean, and you will no longer belong to the people of Israel. These laws will never change. The man who sprinkled the water and the ashes on you when you are unclean must also wash his clothes, and whoever touches this water is unclean until evening. When you are unclean, everything you touch becomes unclean, and anyone who touches you will be unclean until evening. The people of Israel arrived at the Zin Desert during the 1st month and set up camp near the town of Kadesh. It was there that Miriam died and was buried. The Israelites had no water, and so they went to Moses and Aaron and complained. Moses, we'd be better off if we had died along with the others in front of the Lord's sacred tent. You brought us into this desert, and now we and our livestock are going to die. Egypt was better than this horrible place. At least there we had grain and fig and grapevines and pomegranates, but now we don't have any water. Moses and Aaron went to the entrance to the sacred tent where they bowed down. The Lord appeared to them in all of his glory and said, Moses, get your walking stick. Then you and Aaron call the people together and command that rock to give you water. That's how you will provide water for the people of Israel and their livestock. So Moses obeyed and took his stick from the sacred tent. And after he and Aaron had gathered the people around the rock, he said, Look, you rebellious people, you will see water flow from this rock. He raised his stick in the air and struck the rock 2 times. At once water gushed from the rock, and the people and their livestock had water to drink. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you refused to believe in my power, these people did not respect me, and so you will not be the ones to lead them into the land I have promised." The Israelites had complained against the Lord, and he had shown them his holy power by giving them water to drink. So they named the place Meribah, which means complaining. Moses sent messengers from Israel's camp from near Kadesh with this message to the king of Edom: "We are Israelites, your own relatives, and we're sure you have heard the terrible things that have happened to us. Our ancestors settled in Egypt and lived there a long time, but later the Egyptians were cruel to us, and we begged our Lord for help. He answered our prayer and brought us out of the land. Now we are camped at the border of your territory near the town of Kadesh. Please let us go through your country. We won't go near your fields and vineyards, and we won't drink any water from your wells. We will stay on the main road until we leave your territory." But the Edomite king answered, "No, I won't let you go through our country, and if you try, we'll attack you." Moses sent back this message: "We promise to stay on the main road, and if any of us or our livestock drink your water, we'll pay for it. We just want to pass through." But the Edomite king insisted, "You can't go through our land." Then Edom sent out its strongest troops to keep Israel from passing through its territory. So the Israelites had to go in another direction. After the Israelites had left Kadesh and had gone as far as Mount Hor on the Edomite border, the Lord said, "Aaron, this is where you will die. You and Moses disobeyed me at Meribah, and so you will not enter the land I promised the Israelites. Moses, go with Aaron and his son Eleazar to the top of the mountain, and then take Aaron's priestly robe from him and place it on Eleazar. Aaron will die there." Moses obeyed, and everyone watched as he and Aaron and Eleazar walked to the top of Mount Hor. Moses then took the priestly robe from Aaron and placed it on Eleazar, and Aaron died there. When Moses and Eleazar came down, the people knew that Aaron had died, and they mourned his death for 30 days. So we see a couple of things here in that last chapter. God told Moses and Aaron to strike that rock. They decided on their own to do it twice, and it had huge ramifications. Neither one of them now will get to go into the promised land because of that. And Moses has got to be having a hard time during this time. It's about a month long. He loses his sister and he loses his brother, and the Israelites are still complaining. But Moses, even though he realizes that he didn't do the right thing with the water, he is still faithful to God. He still will do whatever God asks him to do. And behind me, this came from a building from 375 in France. It's a carving of Moses striking the rock and the water coming out. So hope you have a great day.